I am Dr. Eve Ojok, not Ajok. I was at Gaza High School, just a year behind Miriam. And so I got to learn about this Neolife option through a friend who introduced me to this. And Miriam was actually the one who presented. Now, the reason why I joined when I did is that to begin with, at about the same time that Miriam herself learned about this option, the Neolife opportunity, I was also there. But I had several children. This was around 96. I think I was too busy. I looked at it and quickly assessed that I could not run with this thing. So that's just how my practical mind worked. I had a lot of children. I ended up with 7. So I suspended it for the time being. And perhaps it was just as well because a lot of my friends picked it up and actually dropped it. So come sometime this year, by this time children have grown, they've left the nest. My knees are aching. My hip felt like it wanted to go east and my body moves west. And I was getting very worried. I had looked after my parents and I had seen how they were fracturing themselves around the hip. And I had given them medicines and I noticed you start the medicine now, these people are going to continue taking that medicine for the rest of their lives. And I quickly concluded, particularly after the COVID debacle, that there is a problem with pharmaceuticals and that I was not ready to be on medicines for the rest of my life. I was already on vitamin B. I was told I'm deficient. Something was wrong with my absorption of it. But when I began what I had seen my mother taking, and I thought, I'm going to take this for another 40 years. And then I began to see side effects. I stopped and began hunting for what I figured were vegetables that would supply the vitamin B. And I was taking a lot of it. But the problem wasn't worsening. It wasn't improving. It was a serious matter of prayer. So when I heard almost incidentally that, there's something that is going to be shared. Ladies, would you mind coming to listen? Well, I was patient with the situation and I said, well, let me give a lady friend an opportunity to talk. I think some of my friends listened for 5 minutes and left. But the moment Miriam began to speak, first of all, I was quickly assessing. I don't recall her anywhere in medical school or veterinary school. This lady didn't do one of these science. She's talking medical. So I was taking notes. And I just sized up what she presented. After that, as soon as she finished, actually, I just went up to her and I said, I'm ready to join. I'm ready to join like yesterday. So I just asked her I think 2 critical questions. And I said, is this thing still pyramidal? And she smartly answered, no, it's not. It works A, B, C, D. That was important to me because now ethics were moving in my head. Pyramidal things were not really accepted in Uganda, and a number of pyramidal companies, I think they were asked to close shop, and none of us liked the way that one worked. Then I don't recall another question, but internally, I wanted to know what is the ethics of this company? Is it just money, money, money? Or is there something more to it? So I knew, right, Miriam has got a testimony, and but I'll just hear how the rest of it goes. Oh, yes, I wanted to know, do you have backup literature? And she said, oh, yeah, there's a place called the Back Room. There's lots and lots of literature. I said, is it available to the public? Yes, there's plenty of literature available to the public. So that satisfied me. Now, as soon as I got the kit, I began to devour the information for myself. And the more I devoured it, the more I was satisfied with what I was seeing. Now then, why did I then choose to join? One, I told you I had that challenge already with my own health and what I had seen. Two, I have a daughter who was diagnosed as bipolar. And we were already having a tussle with her, with her doctors and psychiatrists about the way forward. And I was looking left, right, and center and saying, there must be ways to address this beyond what is available. So we've been discussing, talking with the doctors, talking with my daughter, but I was anxious to see whether there is an untapped direction. And I looked at nutrition and began to think to myself that how about improved health of the brain and nervous tissue? Can this provide an optimum environment in which sort of a diseased tissue can begin to heal? So these were now my pure theories. So I come into this with a lot of zeal to learn and to understand as fast as possible. So here are some of the things I learned for those of you who might be interested in getting a bit of the scientific and ethical background of the Neolife opportunity. Nutrient supplements versus generic drugs. I'm calling the pharmaceutical companies as the ones that produce generic drugs, that these are chemicals that have the structural appearance of the nutrient supplements that are in nature, and therefore they are presumed to mimic the same effects in the body. Now, here is how our body works. Each cell belongs to a tissue. So every tissue has got particular cell types, and they each have a specific function. Now, I know it is divinely wired to perform these functions when all factors are equal. These specific instructions are coded within the cell nucleus. So they've got a little brain that says, you cell, this is your business, this is how you work. The factory that churns out all the required materials for this instruction is a tiny organelle known as a mitochondria. So their business is to manufacture what is needed, but they also help to remove the waste products. Because a factory picks in the good things, churns the required material, and now it also cleans up the cell. Now, something that I didn't tell you is that, as soon as Miriam talked and I walked away from her talk, 3 scripture verses jumped into my mind. The first was in Genesis chapter 129. And there it says, after God finishes creating, the first chapter, he says to man, and you will conceive, you shall eat of every seed. In the middle there in Psalm somewhere, first Psalm, the middle of our Bible, first Psalm, and in verse 5 it says, a righteous man is like a tree planted by rivers of water and produces leaves in good season. The final one is at the end of the scriptures, chapter 22 and verse 2, and it says, out of the throne comes a river of life. There is a tree, and it's a tree of life, and it has fruits yielded every month, and its leaves are good for the healing of the nations. You're seeing now how a human being seems to be composed of plant material. It's a big theme. It also talks about healing. And all of this is moving in my mind, and I'm telling myself, there is something hidden in nature that our forebears harnessed and understood. But currently, we seem either not to be harnessing it well, or we are not understanding how to keep running with a certain secret that has been given to us. So back to the cell. So it has this membrane, and the membrane, as some of you may have heard, it's a living entity. It is like a swing doorway. It allows things to come in, it allows things to go. So the integrity of means that tissue is healthy. And when that tissue is healthy, that organ is healthy. And guess what, guys? When that organ is healthy, you, the entire being, is healthy. So you are as healthy as your one individual cell. So then, as I went on understanding this, I realized that disturbance to the cells ultimately becomes disturbance to the human being. And that's how our body was wired to work. Now, how then did man of the 20th century attempt to mitigate the challenges of the human body falling sick? This is what we people did. Currently, there are roughly two schools of thought. The one is more conservative, and it leans towards the nature, what we were taught and told about, and what our parents were trying to follow. Whenever we were sick, your grandmother or your mother would say, come along, she would go look for some leaves, put them in the water, boil it, and hand it over to you. They had conservative ways of handling different kinds of ailments as they presented. Another one, it fully relies on our God-given wisdom and research, and actually took off big time, probably in the 1940s, 50s. With time, the two began to sort of grow apart. The one was considered archaic remedies and information that has been passed down to those particular plants and organisms and old, well-known old methods of treatment of ailments, and looking at it, then it would manufacture. Let's make a comparison of the use of those medicines as opposed to the natural substances. So these smart scientists discovered chemical structures of many of our beneficial nutrients that are in nature. They produced them in the lab. Now here is the problem. Our body was geared and wired to recognize things that are actually there in nature. Now, you know, we phased, according to our scriptures, into proteins a little bit later on. And so our utilization of animal proteins and any other thing beyond that is not as good as our utilization of the things that are in the plant kingdom, in the soil from which our bodies come, and in the water, which comprises, I think, up to something like 80% of our internal body systems. So the body does not quite recognize something which is not natural, even if that something looks structurally the same, because just structurally looking the same is not the same as being a particular thing, because there is another secret of life within the natural substance. So one of the researchers of this golden Neolife diamond laboratory. They began as research scientists. One of them, who was a real nutritionist, and I think he was really into the way the body works and nutrition. He discovered that when you take in the nutrition, the chemical, the synthetic version, and particularly of amino acids, which are very important proteins. You remember we were told that proteins are bodybuilding and carbohydrates are for energy giving, So he studied this a lot. And he said, in some of the instances, when you take a synthetic version, the body will just look at it and say, me, this one, I don't know. And you can have a loss ranging anywhere from 36% of its efficacy. They call it, that word efficacy means that it can go and do what it is meant to do in the body. And they call it bioavailability. He said that you can lose from 36% of the bioavailability up to 100%. In other words, you drop it in your mouth and it passes smartly through your digestive system and out of your system. In fact, I began to wonder, and there are some of these substances that we are seeing results, but sometimes they're really more of placebos. In other words, our mind has concluded it's going to work. Your body is busy doing what it knows best to do, which is to bring about healing and restoration of the normal. So your cells are busy working even though there is a certain ailment or disability. So you think medicine is working, but a good percentage of it is that your brain has concluded you're getting better and your body works to fulfill the expectation. And it contributes to this. And it's not just necessarily that this particular synthetic solution is doing all the work. Now, that made me even more worried. And I said, you can't tell what is happening. In the pharmaceutical industry, we are hoping and believing that people have ethics. But we learned in COVID, and we have been told by people who are in the industry, that sometimes the finances overrides the ethics. So my urgency to understand better about how these nutrients assist the body. So when the body isn't well, it is in a state of dis-ease or disability or discomfort, and we call it by the different names. So I went now trying to understand actually how much of this so-called disease is not related to nutritional deficiency. And I came to understand that substances known as enzymes, substances known as hormones, they actually control your function right down to your emotions. They control how your body reacts, how it grows, and how it mends itself. They control how your body fights disease. All of these are at the level of your cells. The cells function when they receive the correct nutrition, not the correct medicine, the correct nutrition is what makes them function to deliver what your body needs so that you can now qualify as being well and wholesome. Hence you see or you hear under the natural sciences and certainly under Neolife, you hear statements like health and wellness. They're talking about the wellness of the entire being. So I continue to study these things, and I realized that there is also an ethic particularly in Neolife. Now, when I'm I am looking at, okay, there is more than just Neolife that is dealing in natural substances and supplements to manage the body's wellness and well-being. So now I'm beginning to look and to see what do they all offer. And something that I quickly came to realize as I continued reading literature is the ethics of the people behind this particular industry. They are going out in nature. They are taking time, yes, to research and find out what are the beneficial elements of nutrients. Question of how can we make it available to the human being? How can it be packaged? So they're looking at the method of package. Now, are we going to put in synthetic things or things which might cause negative reactions in some humans? So they went to research, how does the packaging work? After researching on how does the packaging work, they also had an ethic. Are we going to look at how to discover these secrets and keep them to ourselves? Or does human nature need the gift that we have of knowledge in science? Can we make it available to anybody? Now, the other companies, and certainly the pharmaceutical ones, when they discover these things, they give you names you cannot chase in nature. They will call it magnesium, I don't know, something, scientific names. Then they'll come out with a generic name and say, oh, this one is called aspirin. They are not telling you that they got it from plant A, B, C, and D, synthesized them and came out with this. Or this one is called such and such. It deals with this, that, or the other. But these particular people, they went into nature, found what it is, and said, you know what? We are duty bound ethically to let the people know that this has been got from such and such a place, so that they know. So if you look at each little, and I wish I had it here, if you look at the little cover, there is a little bit that they write there, something, and I read every last reading down to the last comma and full stop. They will give you a little bit about what they have put inside there and what it's, and from which particular plant or animal, fish, for example, they have got it from. Now, this means that this wonderful secret that they have got, they are not keeping it to themselves, but the simple, ordinary African in Patongo, my home village, Timbuktu, Pyongyang, Zavravezinski, and Choti Patal, wherever. This particular person, if they just come and they pick up this nutrient, they can have access to this secret and they can go and share it with their friends and say, it is this and this. This is the supplement. They didn't just concentrate on the bomb of cash they'll get. And the more I read, the more I came to understand that pharmaceutical industries make more money than our brains can actually comprehend. What these people have done, they have said is, let us empower the human race. Let them understand that if they pay attention to their body health by just what they take, the nutrients they have, they can put their body in the best place to do what is meant to do. Friends, if our bodies, the tissues and organs in our body have just the nutrients that they need to function, they will arise and do what they are meant to do. So the ones that take care of your immunity will be up and running around taking care of it. The one that take care of any presenting disease will up and take care of it. You injure yourself, cells that deal with cell injury, inflammation, medical people running around in your system to attend to it. Just provide them with a good body environment and all the nutrients they need. The nutrients are there in nature. Problem is this: we are no longer accessing them properly in the 20th century. We have polished off some of the nutritional substances and taken away important elements of that nutrient, like maize, for example, or wheat or rice. That outer rough covering has got something so important that is used for the cell membrane. We polish it off because it is made of fats. Fats cause spoiling. They reduce shelf life. So you know that our current life is all about how long can that thing actually stay on the shelf for purposes of sale and shipment. So they take away the best part. They leave you with the starch. You will get your energy, but your cells will be starved of what they need. And if it is happening just with the carbohydrates, the grain substances, then you know that as much as man is trying to preserve and make it available, or as much as it is trying to kill organisms around it by spraying it and putting chemicals around it, it is making the nutrition there, its bioavailability less, or it is also giving us additional poisons and toxins in nature. And when we talk about toxins in nature, the air we are breathing nowadays in the 21st century, the soil where our crops grow, the water that we take in, we have been so careless in looking after our environment that we have released substances that are toxic to our poor cells. So we take them in, and the big organ, which is the human being, feels it's okay, but at the cellular level, poisons are taking place. Poisoning and intoxication is taking place, or rather, toxicity is taking place. So what Neolife did is, over the years, they have been researching systematically, not just in understanding what are the nutrients that are there in nature, but they've also looked at what happens when the body, the tissues, the organs, and the cells are not functioning well and themselves are malfunctioned, dysfunctional. What can they do to reverse? And they've come out with these products. And now I'm reading that we actually, because we have reharnessed what God has made available to us, I'm looking and reading about these substances and understanding about the miracle they are delivering to us. Because as you take these substances and you take it in the dosages and in the way that they have been prepared carefully in your life, it results in your body health. And sometimes the results are so remarkable that it is tantamount to a miracle. So you're going to read about TNN, you're going to read about aloe vera, you're going to look at gallium, ginger and allium. You are going to look at the mineral supplements, the omega-3 salmon oil plus. All of these, every single supplement has been carefully researched, and they have followed it up to see that it is maximally bioavailable. The body is looking at it and said, I know this substance, I know what it does. So the enzymes are able to make it bioavailable. Your hormones come up and some diseases begin to disappear. Some manifestations of organ malfunction begin to disappear and to go away. So, in short, I myself began to take it. And the symptoms that I've been having, they take their time to go, people, because we've taken 60 years to get into this situation. We are not going to have a fast response, but we are beginning, we will have a response. So for myself, I began with 3NN, then I went off into the home to Pro Vitality. I put my daughter on it. She's beginning to come back to herself, and this is a continuing adventure. It is a continuing adventure. I'm watching that space. I'm watching my own space, the energy, the positive attitude. As the scripture says, a merry heart maketh glad, but a healthy heart makes a person merry. All of these, as God has made it, when you're in a state of wellness and in a sense and have a sense of well-being and self-worth, you empower your body. You release certain chemicals known as endorphins that help your body to rally up, rally around, heal itself even faster. It puts you in a good mood and it makes you look at life positively. You are less likely to get depressed. Your hormones are working. Those that affect your mood, they are also working to ensure that this human being is operating the best, under the best mood, under the best health. Your brain cells, they are meant to innovate, to think, to find solutions. They'll be taking busy finding solutions. So I see what to do in the civic space for the women, for the UPE children, for the people around, because that is what my brain was meant to do. So you're putting it in health. It does what it is meant to do. Your body will arise and do what it is meant to do. I think I've come to the end of my time and gone beyond. And I thank you for the opportunity to share just a little bit of my own story with nutritional substances and the opportunity